Uranus and Gemini squaring the nodes brings a surprising twist of fate for all of us. When that happens exactly kind of depends on whether you use the true node or the mean node, which essentially means somewhere between the 12th and the 18th of July. And that period is highly astrologically active regardless of which one you use. If you want a discussion on which one is better and what's the difference and why we might use one over the other, check out Adam Ellenboss, my teacher's videos on this subject. It is way above my pay grade. So this is a significant event for many reasons, as Pluto will sextile Neptune at this time, while Pallas Athena, the goddess asteroid, will also conjoin Vesta and Saturn. All three of them form a conjunction at the same time as Uranus squares the nodes. So the Uranus bending the nodes influence is really going to be felt well into July, and further powered up on the 14th through the end of July as Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus perfect their minor grand trine. So significant world events are likely to just domino through the end of June, in through July, and perhaps August. And what that means is a lot of change for all of us. This video is going to break it down. Hi, I'm Amy Rose White. I'm an integrative psychotherapist. I've been doing that for a couple decades, and I'm also an astrologer. These videos are all about bringing you healing, concrete tools to align with the astrological transits. So pulling the focus back to Uranus squaring the nodes, which is also called bending of the nodes, which is also called a T-square in astrology. So that lunar bending of the nodes is a confrontation with what is in evolutionary astrology called a skipped step. Now, I'm not an expert in that. I've taken a number of courses in it, but because I have a personal planet squaring my own nodes in my chart, it's a subject that I've studied quite a bit. And I think collectively, it's going to be an invitation in Gemini, the way we think, conceptualize, communicate, give, change, exchange, do business in the world, and change our ideas and mental constructs about the mundane and everyday tasks of survival, which can be Virgo, with the inward, spiritual, dissolving, sometimes lost in the watery depths of Pisces, where the North Node is currently. And this may mean affecting how we cope in our own minds, particularly with racing thoughts, with anxiety, and with mental loops, with ruminating thoughts and with negative beliefs, with judgment and projections onto others. And maybe this overemphasis on a busy mind, or a mind that just feels like we cannot slow it down. Or maybe even the need to be constantly moving, serving, thinking, doing, producing, and exchanging. That's the energy of Gemini being Mercury ruled. That could be very involved in the comings and goings and doings of others and in the immediate vicinity. And the square really invites us to question, of all of those habits, and maybe the things that feel out of our control, what is serving us versus not in those areas? Are we overworking? Are we burned out? I know so many people in my practice are facing significant burnout at this time. I think a lot of that is in the wake of COVID times that people really have not actually recovered from. A lot of fear, confusion, and pain around what's happening in the world, as well as growing concerns around security, financial security, mental security, emotional security, and survival needs as Chiron is getting closer to Taurus. So there's sort of this sense in a collective nervous system depletion that often will lead us to try to treat that ourselves. So we have to ask ourselves at this square, are we self-medicating and escaping as a result of feeling so burned out? Are we getting lost in excessive drug or alcohol use or other habits that are deflecting us from these feelings of total depletion or grief or fear? Those could be like over shopping, gambling, distracting through sex, or otherwise just kind of checking out of reality. So there is a balance that the lunar nodes are asking us to contemplate and reflect on at the time of the square. And honestly, I don't know if balance is really something that can ever be achieved in life. I don't actually really believe in balance, but I do believe in prioritization. So only you at this time can know what is the priority right now that is going to serve your body, your mind, and your heart. Gemini wants to be in service of both. And Gemini and Pisces can get lost in the weeds of mental processes or simply feeling the feeling of disembodiment or dysregulation in the nervous system. And you probably know if you watch my channel, I'm not a huge fan of that phrase because it's so overused and pathologized. But really, this is a time, since Uranus has moved into Gemini in particular. I know it's actually been very challenging for my own executive functioning, as I'm in that growing group of midlife women who finally recognize they've had ADHD their whole life and simply been able to mask until the hormone changes of midlife have revealed a deeper level of it, and it's way harder to manage. So I know with Uranus in Gemini, my own nervous system has really been ramped up, and I've had so many ideas. Uranus, Gemini is my third house, where my chart ruler resides, and so me and many of you, this is a time for us where we're really being asked to get embodied. Virgo's an earth sign, Pisces a water sign. We're literally made of mostly water. A little out of that mental Gemini energy, not because it's bad, but because it can just become overwhelming. And just to give another quick personal example, I know for me, I've lost, which means I think I threw away 2 in the same month, very important tax documents that came in the mail, to the point that I've just been in tears because I feel like I'm pretty organized. Like I have systems. I'm pretty on top of things. I have a rhythm for what to do with things like mail. And I have just misplaced, since Uranus has moved into Gemini, these important documents. And literally, absolutely, I kind of know maybe what happened with one. I'm pretty sure I thought it was junk mail and threw it in the trash after seeing what it was and knowing it was a check. Anyway, this is, but I don't really know why or how this could have actually happened. So I'm sharing this personal example because it's a really good, concrete one of how hard it can feel to organize our thinking and how much we're all being called to grow our mental resilience and to get more grounded and embodied, and maybe even come up with that's Uranus, new novel ways to deal. I basically have had to come up with a new system. I just did this today so that this doesn't happen again. And of course, I don't get like IRS letters in the mail every day. One was for my son, was a check, and one was a better return for me that has never come. So, essentially Uranus is like a disruption in my own mental processes, leading me to create a new system. So that's what this feels like. I feel like it's such a great metaphor. And there's a little bit of an awakening and an understanding in my own mind of my mind. And I have a feeling I'm not the only person out there that's experiencing this. So that's realizing, that perhaps like deep dedication to the arts, to dance, to reading, to drawing, to painting, those are things that I was passionate about as a child. Things that we might have loved as children were actually potentially time where we were actually hyper-focused because we were engaged with something that was rewarding to us personally. And so Uranus and Gemini squaring the nodes is asking us, how can we find things that nourish us and allow us to hyper-focus in a functional way while still taking care of the day-to-day mundane Virgoan tasks of our lives and the ways we have to serve our lives? That's this shit that still needs to get taken care of. How do we not get lost in the daydream, the fantasy, Pisces, or the over-empathy with feelings of others and what's going on in the world to the point that we feel too much, that we feel overwhelmed by our emotions. And for me, the secret really here is sticking to my meditative practices that are both movement-based practices. That's going to really serve Uranus and Gemini much better than simply trying to still or quiet the mind, but while also engaging in those practices that invite us to learn how to witness the mental chatter without getting lost and attached to it. So that's going to be really crucial. So look at your own chart and see where Uranus is making this T-square to the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo, which are just about to change, by the way, and the North will go into Aquarius and the South will go into Leo, which I personally am really looking forward to. This nodal transit of 18 months has not been easy in my 6th and 12th houses, getting activated by that. But in this remaining time, because a lot's going on as the nodes are finishing up there, how does this T-square potentially liberate us from the mental habits that might lead us down a self-defeating road, which can be Pisces? And remember, where the nodes are is not we're trying to go towards the North Node and leave behind the South. No, it's rather to confront the dynamic tension, at least in the Vedic and Hellenistic tradition, to confront the dynamic tension between the two, between the practical and the mundane, and the in the meticulous and the details, Virgo, between the need to serve and the need to nourish, the need for purity and for the pristine, and sometimes sacrifice, with our innate human need to dream and to dissolve the boundaries, to be boundaryless and to be held by another, and not to be a slave to the mundane. Uranus and Gemini wants us to do something new and different. So look at those areas of your chart. Where are the houses? Which house does Gemini fall in? Which house does Uranus call you to do something new and different in the way you think, approach, communicate, and organize your life? That is the invitation here. So the meditation or reflection to consider for this transit that we're really going to feel, at least for a good month, and then that Uranus will be even more specifically engaged with Pluto and Neptune, is where are mental habits no longer serving me, and what would freeing myself up from those actually look like? The mirror work for this transit is, I trust you to think in a new way. And the mantra for this transit of Uranus squaring the nodes is, it's safe to change my mind. Thank you so much for being here, for liking, hyping, sharing. I hope that this was useful. Please let me know in the comments. I so appreciate the community that is supporting each other there. If you like this video, check these ones up here. Check out my free resources below. I think I have some spots left in June for astrological consultation, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.